More action around the association as the regular season resumes following the All-Star break. 12 NBA games tonight, 24 of the 30 NBA clubs in action on this Thursday evening. Again, this is not the second half getting underway, the unofficial second half perhaps. It's the stretch run. It's the playoff push. All 30 NBA teams have played at least 53 games, meaning all 30 have less than 30 games remaining. Only two teams have only played 53 games. Golden State in action as a 5.5-point home favorite tonight against the Lakers, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who entered the All-Star break with maybe the best calendar year of 2024 that we have seen. The Cavs now, Donnie, second best record in the Eastern Conference, still 6 games behind the Boston Celtics, but 36-17 and a 7.5-point favorite at home tonight against Orlando, the over-under 215.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see also talking with Tom Vecchio. And again, this is just about any sport coming out of the All-Star break. Most of these guys did get away for a couple days here. Now coming back, you should be refreshed and ready. But also, does that mean that your jumper is going to be on point from 17 to 19 feet? We'll find that out tonight. But the interesting part about this game tonight, it's a heavy favorite for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and rightfully so. But some late word coming back that Paolo Banchero now questionable for a game tonight, not due to injury, Ben, but due to illness here coming out of the All-Star break. So if we're looking at Banchero not playing in this basketball game, that's probably already somewhat reflected in that line. And if he is out, could we be seeing a double-digit line here for the Cleveland Cavaliers? For me, it's tough. You don't want to sit out when the NBA does come back tonight. But if you're looking at the Orlando Magic already banged up before this game even begins, going to be tough to take the road team, even if they're getting 7, 8, or 9 points tonight by the time we hit game time.
The Magic are the best cover team in the NBA at the All-Star break. 36-19 against the spread is that ATS mark with a 65.5% cover percentage, best in the NBA. Orlando and OKC, the only two teams covering at a greater than 60% hit rate. But Cleveland dropped to 18-15 after suffering a loss on New Year's Day. From that point, in their 20 games up until the All-Star break, the Cavs won 18 of them. They covered in 13 of those 18 victories, 11 times as the favored side. Cleveland has also gone under a ton here as of late in 6 of their last 8 entering the All-Star break. Now, Orlando got off to a really good start, started to struggle just a little bit, but into the All-Star break, they won 6 of their final 8. The Magic, a really good cover team, but if Paolo's not out there tonight, I would lean with where the market is working. 7.5-point favorite in for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that over-under at 215. Next up, we go to a game in the city of brotherly love between the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks. Very short number, minus 112 money line in favor of Philly, minus 104 on the money line for New York. The slight road underdogs are the Knickerbockers tonight. The over-under, 227.5. In the month of January, New York was 14-2, under in 14 of 16 games in January as well. In February, New York just 2-5. They lost 4 straight entering the All-Star break. Philly without Joel Embiid, they have dropped 9 of their last 12 games as well. What happens tonight in the first game for both following the All-Star break?
Yeah, both of these teams, Ben, as you said, really needed to get to the All-Star break and limping through it. So you say, okay, it's that second half sprint. Let's see what happens. Well, the anticipated starting lineup tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers, Maxey, Hield, Oubre, Harrison, Reed, that's about what you expect. Why? Because, of course, we know Joel Embiid is not coming back for at least weeks, maybe even months at this point right now. But the one thing you're hoping for, if you're a Knicks fan or backer, is like, okay, we got to the break here. We had guys banged up. Let's get some of those guys back. But looking at the anticipated starting lineup tonight, Ben, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Achua, and Hartenstein. So still waiting on OG to come back into that lineup here, and Julius Randle. So for that fact of matter, I'm going to take the Philadelphia 76ers as a slight favorite tonight in their own building. I'll go that route.
I'm actually going to look at the New York Knicks. I do think more than taking a side, I like the under tonight. First game for both teams following the All-Star break. And when the Knicks play their best basketball, it is Tom Thibodeau basketball. Defense is first and foremost, and pregame totals tend to stay under 227.5. I like the under tonight in Philly between the Knicks and the 76ers. Best team in the NBA, and by a pretty good margin, is the Boston Celtics, the only team to reach the 40-win benchmark prior to the break, and they have 3 more than 40. It's a 43-12 record for the C's. Boston's first game following the All-Star break, 8.5-point road favorite in Chicago against the Bulls, the over-under 226. We often talk, Donnie, about reading lines in college basketball where motivation is a little bit easier to throw into the handicap in conference games between rivals as a home team is an underdog or whatever it might be. I think this is a strong C's line for a reason as well.
No, it certainly is, too. And you take a look at that anticipated starting lineup, which is full go. Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis. But sometimes it needs to be said, and we talked about this with the Milwaukee Bucks earlier in the show with Giannis Antetokounmpo, basically giving those interviews like, I can't wait to get back to work. Like, we're finally through it. Once you get past the All-Star break, there is no tomorrow, as we like to say. You're either in it to win it or you're going to fade down the stretch. And I expect big things from the Celtics. You don't want to start out of the break with a loss or maybe stumble and give some other teams hope, like the Milwaukee Bucks, that they might be able to chase down the Boston Celtics for that number 1 overall seed. I'm with you on this one. This should be a double-digit victory for the Boston Celtics because if we're taking a look at both of these teams, are the Bulls saying, hey, now's our chance to get into the playoffs and do some damage? No, they're not doing that. But the Boston Celtics, yeah, they're saying, let's solidify our number 1 seed here, and it starts tonight.
43-12 overall record for Boston, 17-9 away from TD Garden, where they have by far the best home record in the NBA, 26-3. 55 games overall. The C's have been booked as a favorite in 53 of them, 24-26-3 against the number. On the road, 9-12-3 against the spread as an away favorite. I would still probably lean with laying the 8.5 in favor of Boston tonight. The Bulls 3 games below 500, 26-29, technically still in the 9th spot in the Eastern Conference. They would be in the play-in tournament if the season ended today. In the 6th spot in the Western Conference as of this moment, the New Orleans Pelicans, 11 games above 500, 33-22. The Pels a 7-point home favorite tonight against the Houston Rockets. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Pels in this game tonight, too. Same sort of, initiative that we're taking a look at the Boston Celtics. Let's set the tone for the second half of the season, or at least that sprint post-All-Star break. I think the Pelicans can do the same thing. What's the only worry about the Pelicans? You show up, Zion had a couple days off. Oh, no, Zion gained a couple pounds, and he's not in playing shape. Outside of that, I mean, really, they should roll in this game tonight. The Houston Rockets, that young team got away from the, hey, you know what? I got 7 days off. Let's go relax and spend some of this money out here. So I'm going to bet on the Pelicans tonight. I think they win and win easily.
The Rockets a dog 35 times this year, 16-18-1 against the spread. The Pels, 11 games above 500, won 8 of their final 9 entering the All-Star break. Only covered, though, 4 times in those 8 wins. I still think they will cover this number tonight at home against the Houston Rockets. Now we turn our attention to some college basketball on this Thursday evening. We go out to a top 25 tilt in Arizona. In Tucson, it's the Wildcats taking on the Washington State Cougars. And you might be saying, wait, Wazoo is involved in a ranked battle? Yes, they are. Washington State ranked in the AP poll for the first time since 2008, and they check in at 21st in all the land. Pay attention to what Kyle Smith is doing up in the Palouse, because Washington State is going to be a team to reckon with come the NCAA tournament, ranked for the first time since 2008, trying to make their first NCAA tournament since 2008 as well. And yet a 12.5-point spread tonight in favor of Tommy Lloyd and the Cats, over under 150 and a hook.
And by the way, you might be looking at this game like, I don't really hear too much about Washington State. Both Washington State and Arizona have some nice winning streaks coming into this basketball game tonight. And if you go back just a couple weeks into the season, Washington State already has a W over Arizona. So revenge on the mind of the Wildcats. If you take a look there at that 12.5-point number, you can read into that. That is really an Arizona line. Arizona, the number 1 overall defense in efficiency in Pac-12 play. You take a look at their offense, also number 1, so a deadly combination. But some things are interesting here, which I think line up fairly well for Arizona. You take a look at the point distribution here from 2-point range, which is what you really focus on for Arizona. They're 3rd in conference play. But how about this? 3rd in conference play at giving up points inside the paint is Washington. One of those teams here that you take a look at Arizona doesn't rely overall on the three-point shot, and rightfully so. Good for them tonight because number one at chasing you off of the three-point line is Washington State here. I look for a big bounce back here for Arizona coming back from losing that game a couple weeks previous year. I'm looking for a big win tonight, but also maybe an under 150.5 for me out there in the Pac-12 tonight.
First matchup between these two, 73-70. That was up in Pullman on the Palouse. They won outright, did Wazoo, as a 9-point home underdog. The total of 153 did stay under. Only 143 points would stay under this number as well. I don't think it's an outright upset. I do believe the Cougs get a cover. In their last 5 games in Pac-12 play as an underdog, they have won outright in all 5 of those games, including that matchup against Arizona. That often happens for a team that is overperforming on expectation. The books are hesitant to move them off their power rating and that model to make them a lesser underdog or even the favored side. But that's not the case here. It's a 12.5-point spread. Again, I don't think Wazoo wins outright in Tucson. I do believe Washington State can cover this number, staying within 12.5. Arizona has not been the best cover team in Pac-12 play. Big Ten action in West Lafayette and Mackey. Tough one for Rutgers, who always plays Purdue tough, but Purdue is coming off a loss on the road in Columbus on Sunday against Ohio State. Some time off to reflect and to make a statement. The Boilers booked as a 15.5-point home favorite.
Might be too much here. That 138.5 also sticks out, not to the over, to the under for me. The one interesting thing about Rutgers, they probably are the perfect under team as they look because why? They are horrendous on offense and tremendous, Ben, on defense, which usually factors out well. They match up actually fairly well against this Purdue team in 2-point distribution, 12th in conference play, which is kind of wild. You think that Purdue would have such an advantage in the paint, but they do shoot the 3-point shot rather well. That's one of the spots here that you could take advantage here of Rutgers, but doesn't look like they're going to be able to do that tonight. Is it going to be an easy win for Purdue? Probably so, but I'm looking more at the under here because Rutgers, the only way they can win this is not getting into a shootout with Purdue. It's turning this into a true rock fight and limiting to possessions. Give me the under 138.5.
Total slightly on its way up, now listed at 139.5 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights are to Big Ten men's basketball what Iowa is to Big Ten football. Offensive efficiency numbers for Rutgers, 276 out of 362. Defensive efficiency, 2. Second best defensive team in the country. Rutgers has the 3rd highest under percentage of high major teams this year. Only Vandy and Notre Dame have had more games go to the under than Rutgers. 68% of their games, 17 of the 25 that they have played. They did win 4 straight before they got beat by Minnesota on the road on Sunday. And in all 4 of those wins, the opposing team scored 60 points or less. That is Steve Peichel pounding nails basketball. Again, just a tough spot against Purdue as they return home to Mackey. I've got some more thoughts on Big Ten basketball and a best bet that I love. Donnie Rightside will give you one as well. The NBA is back. College basketball rolls on. We will give you a best bet before we say farewell here on the early line up next.